Kara once said that her aim was not to do versions, but to extract the latent content of traditional stories and use it as beginnings to new stories. Well, hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Academic Debates. I am your host, Kutlwano Malika, and I have with me my co-host,
Thandeka Kutlwano.
Today we'll be doing a deep dive on the way in which Kara explores and transforms traditional fairy tale motifs into Gothic unsettling narratives that problematize gender, sexuality, control, and cultural fantasies of romance using the bloody chamber as our guide. This tale really intrigued us, né? And when I was reading it, I was hooked. And I was like, who's this girl and what is happening?
It's a very interesting story, isn't it? And also, don't forget that we will talk about Kara's writing style and, the Gothic horror themes in her story or in her books. The discussion circulates around, the idea of whether her book exposes elite men who use their, happy ending to lure, control, and exploit women, or whether her work looks into, toxic characters or people such as the Marquise, and not the fantasy love or the happy ending itself, which sounds very interesting, right?
Yeah, it is intriguing. What is your take on the tale of entrapment and survival as a marriage plot in the book?
Okay, Kutlwano. Kara reimagines marriage plots as a chilling narrative, for entrapment and survival. The young pianist, as we read through the novel, we learn that she describes her journey into marriage as away from Paris, away from girlhood, away from the wide, enclosed equitude of my mother's apartment, and into the unguessable country of marriage. So though she is excited, her excitement dies down when she realizes that she got into the marriage because she was, and I quote, so utterly seduced by the Marquis's status and wealth, which seemed lovely at the time, though at the same time she feels, exiled and lonely into her, and I quote, stunning marriage. So this takes us to the setting of the castle, which she describes it as, and I quote, a lovely prison of which I was both an inmate and a mistress. So now this highlights the theme of entrapment.
That is really interesting. So maybe some of us think that way when we get into relationships with rich people.
Okay, so you're thinking, how does Kara manipulate the idea of a happy ever after to change the traditional fairy tale norms?
Well, Kara violently challenges the traditional happily ever after thing, and she gives us a very shocking revelation. The narrator's initial tender, delicious ecstasy of excitement pinpoints us directly to dread. It gives way to dread. As the discovery of the forbidden room, which the Marquis calls it the key to his infer, which is a translation to his hell, that's the pivotal moment where we understand that now it's about to go down. She discovers that instead of finding a private study, as he said, she finds a torture chamber. And inside she finds gruesome remains of the opera singer. She finds this woman? She finds the veiled skeleton with the rose crown, and she also finds the other woman who has many spikes and still bleeding. So with this, she experiences a sense of violent shock. This violent shock leads to her bursting into this turbulent sobbing that contains pity of the other victims and realizing that she is next in line. As now it continues with the Marquise now putting the key and giving her a permanent bloodstain mark of the key on her forehead, which is, I quote, the mark of Cain. And she permanently wears it, and she quotes that she will wear it until she dies. It signifies that she has lost her innocence and she's close to death like than never before, you know. And the Marquis' casual plan to decapitate her is the ultimate denial of romantic fantasies. Like, it literally just changes the idea of romantic fairy tales. It gives you the clue of romance sometimes is really painful.
So in a nutshell, romance is not what we perceive is the way we think it is, but it's the exact opposite of what we think is, right? Okay, so now Kutlwano, another question that I have for you is that how does the author recreate the traditional theme of fairy tales using female agency and the Gothic style devices?
Generally, fairy tales portray women as passive and waiting to be rescued by men, and have been known to depend on men in terms of their happiness. So with Kada, she actively challenges these traditional tropes. Like, she goes all in, she transforms these passive princesses into active agents, like Avenger type of vibes. She, like the narrator's naivety, she says she's 17 and knew nothing of the world. That's what she begins with. But as the story goes on, we see her dark curiosity driving her to explore the Marquis' secret chamber. What's in that forbidden chamber, So from innocent to I wanna go there, even though it's forbidden, So yeah.
Kutlwano, I must say, this is such a powerful subversion, Yeah. Okay, the ultimate act of agency. Now we see comes from her mother, portrayed as, and I quote, an eagle-featured, indomitable mother who, and I quote again, had outfaced a jungle of Chinese pirates, just a village through a visitation of the plague, as well as shot a man-eating tiger with her own hand. This woman is marvelous, hey? So her mother, driven by maternal telepathy, that is quoted from page 57 of the book, using her deceased, husband to serve as a revolver. And I quote again, she puts a single irreproachable bullet through my husband's head. So this heroic intervention, according to me, is definitely shatters the passive damsel archetype.
That is so true. Kada utilizes Gothic stylistic devices to enhance this unsettling narrative, like the use of the airy setting of the secret pinnacled domain castle, which is cut off from the land by half a day. It creates an isolated and mysterious atmosphere, like the symbolism abounds, like the Undertaker's lilies that fill her bedroom, making it feel like an embedding parlor, So like it just foretells that death is coming. The use of mirrors that reflect multiple versions of the bride and the groups objectify her and reveal that she's potentially going to be corrupted. And in the eyes of the Marquise, she already is. She has potential in being corrupted by him. So yeah, like...
Moving on, we find that one other significant element in Carter's work is her use of monsters and beasts in her narratives. So in the Bloody Chamber, we find that the Marquis represents danger, as he is described, as a person with a leonine, I quote, a leonine shape, which is a comparison to a lion-shaped head. Yes, lion-shaped head. So now this represents his position as a predator, patriarchal character who, embodies an unrestricted male desire and sexual control. This results, this now beastly nature connects to his corrupting, influence, and his role as a manipulator and an objectifier of his naive young wife.
That's really wonderful. So, returning to our initial debate, does Kada critique abusive men, or does she critique the cultural fantasies of romance?
Okay. No, you know what, Kutlwano? Really, the Marquis is undoubtedly an abusive individual, as we have read in the book. He's a monster who exploits and murders women directly. This directly now supports their critique of abusive men. His actions and the horrific contents of the bloody chamber are explicit examples of his depravity.
However, the narrator's initial delicious ecstasy of excitement and her conscious awareness of that she sold herself to this fate of riches, it demonstrates that wealth can lure and gives way to destiny, blinding one from danger.
Okay, Kutlwano, Kata's ending, where the narrator rejects, or a life of immense wealth for a simpler existence with the blind piano tuner we have, as we have read in the book, suggests a clear critique of the superficiality of a happily ever after fantasies, tied to material gain. The mother's fierce and conventional heroism in this case further promotes a feminism perspective that reimagines, female agency and love beyond traditional romantic narratives.
So basically, Kara's work critiques both the abusive side of the debate and also the cultural fantasies of romance, showing dangerous individuals like the Marquis thrive within and exploit these societal fantasies. So it edges women to a more conscious and self-aware engagement with their desires and circumstances.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Academic Debates. Ciao!